Alright, Rockers, right there. A little Judas Priest, the title track of their album Hellbent for Leather, what I thought would be a perfect segue into my next guest. Joining me right now on the phone, a good buddy of mine, now the most visited member to the Asylum, one of the three hosts of that metal show, and comedian extraordinaire whose album Hellbent for Laughter is now available now on iTunes and through his own website, none other than Don Jamieson on the phone here inside the Asylum. How's it going, dude?
Is that true? I'm the most booked guest on the show?
Yeah, you are now, have done 3 visits here inside the Asylum. You now take the lead. Behind you is Mike Orlando and Lita Ford.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm in great company then. 2 killer guitar players, and both very sexy.
That's true. I don't know about Mike. I haven't seen Mike in person yet. I've seen Lita in person, so I can't speak on Mike. I haven't seen him in person yet.
Yeah, but you got to see. He can lick an ice cube. Let me tell you something.
Is that why you guys are waiting to get him on that metal show? You're afraid the sexual references may go out of hand, huh?
Yeah, I think you're going to be able to cut the sexual tension with a knife if he comes on. But no, he has been on the show, and I'm psyched for Adrenaline Mob, continuing on without Portnoy, because obviously he's a huge cog in any, heavy metal wheel. So I know AJ Parrish came in and is just really kicking ass, and people know AJ from Twisted, and but they don't know what a real super monster drummer he is, and filling in for Mike is no small order. So congrats to those guys. They got a great new album out, and I'm pumped for them.
Yeah, Men of Honor, great album that's been out for a few months now. Yeah, I got it a little early. I checked it out. Been playing it. You are right, man. AJ, filling Portnoy's shoes on any level is near impossible, but AJ manages just to come in. I listened to it, and you can distinctly hear the differences because AJ just seems to add a little more aggression to it. And his style in Twisted is obviously much different. So, but stepping into the Mob, he has to. He takes a little bit of more of a take, and you're right, it's definitely a lot more aggressive. And, while we're speaking about the great Mike Portnoy, here's a piece of trivia for you. Who is the only comedian in the history of Dream Theater to ever open for them? Well, I'm gonna, of course, it would have to be you.
That's correct. Yes, what a great honor, and that was when Mike was in the band, and he was so nervous because he's like, we've never let a comedian open for us, and it was up in at the Palladium in Worcester, Mass, and he was just, it was like my dad, standing in the wings. He was just wanting me to do so good because he was afraid all the other guys in the band were gonna hate him, and luckily it was a good set, and but then ironically 2 months later they decided to split up. I hope I had nothing to do with that. If I did, I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah, somewhere there's a secret meeting. Damn it, Mike put Don Jamieson on in front of us. Jamieson blew us off the stage. That's it.
Yeah, right.
Portnoy's out of the band.
Yeah, well, I think, I'm glad for Mike. He was with those guys forever. Both sides needed a change. So, and everybody seems to be doing okay. So, all good. But that was a great honor, of course, for me. So.
Oh, for sure. You are. Everyone knows it from that metal show. You being the big fan that you are, I can only imagine what it must have been like to be able to go up on stage, and be the opening act for one of the bands that you yourself have listened to and been a fan for so many years.
Well, that's the thing too. Anytime I've been able to get up and open for a band, whether it's Twisted Sister or it's doing the Orion Festival with Metallica or Dream Theater, whatever the case may be. Yeah, I'm definitely grateful that first of all, as a comic, that's a gig, 99% of comedians would never take, because opening for a rock band is really, really tough. The crowd just wants their band to play. But yeah, luckily I have a little recognition with the metal audience. Just at least, I got about a 2-minute grace period, and if I suck at that point, then the cans start flying and the bottles. But I've been lucky, and as you know, I do a lot of material, geared towards the metal community, so that usually helps too.
Right, well, yeah, it definitely would make it easier because, people know that you're not just some random comedian that one of the members of the band happened to be a fan of, that they threw out there on the tour with them or on the show with them. You are also a fan of the same music, so that speaks volumes on several levels, because, like you said, you can connect with your audience because of that similarity.
Right, exactly. So that, like I said, you still got to bring it. That's the thing with the metal crowds. They are so passionate. So you just can't go up there and try to live off your name. You got to go up there and deliver. And again, I would never disrespect any band or even any other comedian, big comedian that I go out and open with, by just trying to call it in. Man, I'm always going to bring it, whether there's 2 people, 200, or 2,000, like the Night with Dream Theater. I'm always going to give the same show. When we did the Orion Festival, what a great honor. Lars Ulrich comes down and introduces me to, thousands of Metallica metalheads, and I go out and I do my set, and it's just a great day. And that was on a Saturday, and then the following Thursday, Turbo, I kid you not, I literally played a pizza place.
Oh, wow.
And but you know what, man? I gave the same show as I did at Orion. You know what I mean? I didn't go, I just opened for Metallica. Now I'm at a pizza place. Screw these people. I'm not gonna. I probably even gave them more of a show at the pizza place, just because I'm like, this is the absurdity of this business, that I'm here 5 days later after the biggest show of my life. So I gotta have fun either way. And people paid to get in, so you're gonna get a show. Whether you like me or not, that's up to you. But you're always gonna get a show.
Who had the better catering, Orion or the pizza place?
Well, the catering? They did give me free garlic knots, so that was pretty good.
Well, there you go. Hey, and I'm sure your girlfriend had to be happy about the garlic knots. Keep any of your any groupies you might have away, and keep her all to herself.
No, well, yeah, well, but know that through my comedy act that my girlfriend is way out of my league, so I try not to do anything that's going to make her go, nah, you know what, too much garlic with him, I got to get out of here. So I probably gargled about half a bottle of Scope that day.
Wow, that'll kill just about anything.
Exactly.
So before we get into talking about your new album, Hellbent for Laughter, available now on iTunes and through your website, courtesy Metal Blade Records, around Touch Base, a little bit about that metal show. You guys are now the longest running show on VH1 Classic, or VH1 in general. I mean, here we are 13 seasons later. Your mind has to be blown that you guys have managed to reach a pinnacle on a show that when it started, everyone didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, and in some ways, believe it or not, we still don't know what's going to happen, because a lot of people who watch, like when I watch my favorite TV shows, I'm not thinking about, do these people have contracts? Or what the situation behind the scenes is. I just assume, there's a great show and it's going to stay on forever, or I at least hope so. But the truth of the matter is, when we get done with a season, it's like the end of a date. It's just like we all just get done, and then it's like, all right, I'll call you. And we have no idea. Like, do you think they're going to call? I think they had a good time. I'm not sure, So it's really kind of nerve-wracking when we get done. I mean, we always feel positive that, we're going to get picked up. And so far, thanks to everyone, supporting and watching the show and watching the reruns and watching the reruns of the reruns, we've been able to continue on. But I have a good feeling that, you're going to get another fresh season out of us this year. I think people are really happy with the new, setup with the show, being back in New York and having the show be a little more current, and just, again, another wide variety of guests, which is always important. So I think you can count on squeaking out another season out of us this year.
Nice. Hey, that would be great, because I know a lot of people, the last season before you guys came back to the New York area, the whole show kind of got revamped. New segments were put in, old segments were put out. Some people even went so far as to say it looked like the CNN version of a music show, because they had you guys were up on bar stools with a table in the middle of the room. And this season, it's back to that very laid-back style, sitting down on a coffee table. Is it more comfortable for you guys now, not only with the new setup, and being back here on the East Coast, as to what it was when you guys were last out on the West Coast?
Well, I mean, as far as the table, believe it or not, we all actually like the round table better because we're way closer to the guests, The way it is now, yeah, it's more like we're hanging out in the basement and everyone just grabs a chair, where they can around the table, and, we're just shooting the shit, which is great. But I actually like the intimacy of the table, but nobody liked the design of it. Yeah, and, you're right. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like we were in the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer or something, so it didn't really go over, but look, we'll take the show in the streets if we have to. We just love doing it, so that's good. But the main thing about being back in New York is just that we tape on a Tuesday and it airs on a Saturday, so that we could talk about current things. And there's been a lot of big news, this season that we've actually been able to discuss and have it air right away, as opposed to 2 months later, and everybody's like, oh, well, that's been over with for a long time. So we got to talk about Motley, and they're doing their first farewell tour, and all the drama with Kiss, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So we've been able to, address those as they, come up, and any, like, the latest news that we're getting on the tape day, we always try to include.
Yeah, you guys really managed to squeak in the Motley Crue farewell tour when that one announced. I remember I was home watching the press conference, and knowing that you guys tape on the Tuesday, I was watching what time it was and what the press conference was doing, and I was almost sitting there wondering, is it going to make it? Is it barely going to make it? Not knowing exactly what the time frame was for you guys. And I'm sure it helps you guys also, because when you guys were doing it out in LA, it was 2 months in advance. You were out there for a week, and then everyone kind of had to play keep the secret about what was going on in the show. Whereas now, you guys are able to talk about it without worrying about giving anything away.
Yeah, and then people get, it's great because people get excited, and they, like we taped with Peter Criss yesterday, and it was just an amazing interview. And so, people are, all week are on Twitter and on Facebook, and they're saying, oh my God, I can't wait for this, weekend, and they're only waiting, 4 days. So, that's the good thing, as opposed to, like, they get excited for 4 days, but they still got to wait now 3 months. And, I think we lose a little steam that way. But, it's fun to go to L.A. It's fun to get a lot of frequent flyer miles and hang out at the Rainbow and all that stuff. But it really is good to be home. And just for the sake of the show and just giving the fans as fresh a show as possible, it's cool to be back in New York. And plus, I see people, I look out in the crowd and I see people like I went to Lemoore with in like 86, and I'm like, wow, this is great, man. It's good to be home.
You gotta love it. People seem to forget that the New York area is still a rock and metal city. FM radio has distorted the perception of this city and kind of has everyone thinking that New York belongs to Jay-Z and the hip-hop scene and Lady Gaga and all of them. When you get down to the roots, this is still a rock and metal city. It's just the media that's made it seem otherwise.
True. I'm out on the scene a lot, and obviously, as much as some of the legendary clubs in New York have closed down, there's still a lot of places for people to play. The scene is really, really good. I know that you're supporting a great band out of New York called ASYLUM that I think is really going to blow up, and I'm going to give them some time on TMS as well. And there's, lots of those bands coming up. And since I moved back to New Jersey, man, the New Jersey scene is really, really happening. I profiled a band called Lower the Veil on the show, and that's really helped those guys out a lot. I could have picked, one of a dozen really, really good Jersey bands for the show, but I went with them. But it just shows you, like, any night if you go out in New York or New Jersey, you can really see a great show. For the $15 you'd pay to go see a movie in Manhattan and walk out and go, oh, that kind of sucked. What a waste of time. You could go watch live music for 4 hours and just have a blast and discover some new bands and also support. That's the only way to keep these bands going, is if you keep supporting them, they'll keep playing.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is. I say that on a weekly basis here inside the Asylum, is that, people, they spend money on movies and they spend money on the big concerts coming around. When I do it myself, I'm going to the farewell tour for Motley Crue, I'm going to the Kiss Def Leppard tour, but at the same time, those shows are great. But knowing that you've got bands in the area that for $10, $15 just to get in the door, and you'll see 4 to 5 great local bands. I mean, you can't beat that anywhere when it comes to music.
Right, true, and there's a lot of a lot of cool venues have sprouted up out of the ashes in New York, out of the ashes of like Don Hills and CBGBs and the Continental and Brownies, which are all clubs that when I lived in Manhattan, I used to go to all the time, that are no longer there. But Brooklyn has such a strong scene now with St. Vitus and the Trash Bar and places like that. There's a lot of places now for bands to play, and it seems like Brooklyn has sort of really become the hot spot out there to develop a lot of up and coming bands. So yeah, people should check that out if they're in Manhattan. It's just a quick subway ride out to Brooklyn if they can't find a show in New York, or they can't afford the big show. Like you said, you got to pick your spots with the big shows. You're not going to be able to go to all of them. So you pick the couple that you're really into, and then then you support the other bands. In the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you are right, Brooklyn. I mean, when the venues in Manhattan started to shut down, I started to get a little worried, but like you said, Brooklyn's got Trash Bar, great venue. You guys know that listen to the Asylum on a regular basis. Rock Against Dystrophy started there, and it was back there last October. It's a great venue. St. Vitus, another great venue. There's a brand new venue. It's only a couple of years old, called the Paper Box. Another amazing venue that is slowly building up steam. We did a Rock Against Dystrophy there. I mean, that place, the guy that owns it is a musician, so the sound in there is amazing. So, the local scene is alive and well. And I wanted to ask you, you said you're going to mention the guys of ASYLUM. I wanted to get your take on what you think of those guys. I've known them for a while here in the New York area. What's your thoughts on them?
I'm sorry, which band did you say?
ASYLUM.
Yeah, well, I've known Jason actually for their singer for a bunch of years since I've been affiliated with Metal Blade. Great dude, and he had come out and supported my band many times, and when he unleashed his band on me, I was like, whoa, dude, I had no idea. Like, it's such a cool, it's a super heavy, cool, unique. I guess if you have to compare it to another band, which, that's, I'm always hesitant to do that because, but if you want to get the word out about a band, it's easy to compare them to somebody. I'd say give them a little bit like Lamb of God-ish kind of thing, but maybe just a little bit more experimental than them. So just a cool band, and Jason's a good dude, and they're the real deal, man. They're not they're not this band that just plays on the weekends for beer money. These guys, like I said, it looks like I'm going to, if I can get a copy of their album in time, I'm going to give them some love on TMS.
Yeah, I remember I got the album from Jason a few weeks ago digitally. The physical copies aren't ready yet. Well, I had Jason on here inside the Asylum a few weeks ago. It's on my website, YouTube channel. For those of you who are listening that may want to check it out and might have missed it, the new album is great, really solid stuff by Victus. And what I love, Don, is you bring up a great point. They're not playing for Beermoney on the weekends. When Jason was on, he was actually telling me that their plan right now is to go tour, and they've already announced a bunch of dates all across the country leading up to the release of their new album by Victus. And that's kind of a sign of the way things are going. I think more bands are doing the independent thing because the major bands are double booking, and these new bands can't get onto these headline tours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we'll talk. You'll hear us talk about that on that metal show Saturday. It's true. Those days of there's only a few bands that bring some of the smaller bands on the road. Metallica still does it. There's a few bands, but now these bands have to sort of go, swing it out in the clubs and build their fan base that way. And this band, obviously, I Kill You is a band that that's where their meat and potatoes is gonna be. But they definitely have the potential to, again, I could see them taking the sort of career path as Lamb of God, because they're kind of an underground band. They're kind of unique and different, and super heavy. So you're not going to hear them on the radio, but I could see them really building a very strong fan base and just growing as each album goes. It's amazing that when we had Lamb of God on the show, it's just like, did you ever think you're playing this underground music that this many years later, almost 20 years later, this is one of the most rabid fan bases out there. So. If that's but that takes a lot of slugging it out in the clubs, man. So, but those guys are road dogs, so they'll be all right.
Absolutely, and if we cross our fingers, Jason doesn't have any issues like Randy Blythe of Lamb of God had. So glad that got resolved peacefully, and that whole situation didn't turn into something worse than what it could have been.
Yeah, well, let's, because let's face it, I mean, no band is out to hurt their fans, obviously, if people haven't seen it, they should try to go out and see As the Palaces Burn, and, you will definitely see, the human side of that whole story, on both ends, and it's really well done. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I have it on my must watch list. Actually, I get myself a copy of it and check it out. I did want to see it because I'd be following everything as it went down. Don Jamieson on the phone with me now from That Metal Show, his new album, Hellbent for Laughter, courtesy of Metal Blades Records, available now on iTunes and through his website. Before I want to take a minute and play something from that, and we'll talk about it, but before we do, I gotta bust your balls a little bit, Don, regarding That Metal Show, a little behind-the-scenes stuff people don't usually get to see from the Dee Schneider taping.
Yes, okay, hit me.
I was there at, what people don't realize is, look, these guys do it live, and then it's edited afterwards to clean up little mistakes here and there. But our buddy Don here had a very hard time with a very simple word, but it's all because of our language, and that would be the word bow and bow.
Yeah, that's a three-letter word. It tripped me up to the point where I think the audience was like, forget the last segment, let's just get out of here, this guy can't get it. But yeah, I was fumbling and stumbling that last segment. I couldn't get the right, whether it was bow or bow, and I still don't know to this day. But if people want to see what we're talking about on the VH1Classic.com, it's a web extra of me trying to do an introduction to the Throwdown between two Twisted Sister albums, and I can't get the word right, and then I also was trying to hold up vinyl, and one of the albums was upside down when I finally got the word right, and it was just a whole clusterfuck, but it was pretty funny, and I was actually glad that they edited it and put it somewhere if people want to check it out.
It was just priceless. I mean, it's one thing when you have trouble with a word, and I'm not going to lie, bow and bow, for those who don't know, they are spelt the same way. So when you're seeing them, it's not easy to comprehend. And I think the funniest part really of the whole thing was you finally got it right, you knew you got it right, and then you held up the vinyl upside down, and your reaction of just, fuck this, you chucked it. Oh, dude, I was cracking up. I was almost on the floor of the studio.
Well, you know, when you're getting to the end of the race and you just can't muster up that last bit of energy to cross the finish line. That's what it felt like. I'm like, am I ever going to get through this? And I did it. I tried it again this week on with the Peter Criss show. I brought my vinyl for that one too, and I devised a foolproof way to not screw up and waste the audience's time. So I'm very proud of myself now.
Good, man. I was worried if you were going to do that one again. It's like, I'm sitting there last night, the tweets about the taping, and I'm going, I wonder what's going to happen tonight with the throwdown.
Right, yeah. Well, I told my producer, I said, if you wanted to leave that in, I wouldn't have had any problem with that. I mean, I think people at this point know that we're not, we're not polished broadcasters, and it's always fun for us if they leave, in mistakes, if we look at a wrong camera, but if we catch ourselves and we make a joke about it, he'll always lean in and go, do you want to do another take? And I go, was it, not if it works and it was funny. And he goes, no, it was great. We'll leave the mistake in because it was real. But the only problem with leaving, my thing the last time is it literally drained like 5 minutes, so it just wasn't enough time in the show for it. But we love leaving just the real stuff that happens as much as you can. It's a TV show, so you got to edit it. But
yeah, you got to leave room for the commercials that pay the bills and keep you guys on the air.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right, let's play something from your new comedy album, Hell Bent for Laughter. We'll come back after that. We'll talk more about the album. I love the entire album. You know that because I put my review up of it the other day. Which track would you like us to play here to tease everyone that maybe hasn't heard it yet?
Oh, man, I know a lot of people are playing track one, but let's see. I guess we could do. I guess track one's good because it's short and it talks about that metal show and Guns N' Roses, and it's got an intro from Jim Florentine and a guitar thing from Vinnie Morris, so there's a lot in there. So why don't we let that roll?
All right, check it out, guys. Right now, the opening track from Don Jamieson's latest comedy album, Hell Bent for Laughter. It's called That Metal Show, Wedding Songs, and Guns and Fucking Roses. Check this one out. We'll be right back with more of Don Jamieson right after this. Alright, gang, there you go. A little taste of Don Jamieson's new album, Hell Bent for Laughter, available now courtesy of Metal Blade Records online, iTunes, DonJamieson.com, all that good stuff. Don, the album is amazing. I listened to it, and I told you when I saw you at that metal show, and I wanted to open one, I made the mistake of listening to it while eating dinner. And, I know you for so long now, and I know your stuff. I think I'd be able to manage to get through it, and somehow or another, you got me several times. I almost choked while eating dinner because I was in such a hurry to listen to it.
Well, I'm flattered, but also glad that you're still with us. But that's a great testimonial for me, man. Yeah, look, I just try to. obviously, music and hard rock and metal in general are a big part of my life. So, there's jokes about that on the album, and there's jokes about my relationship, and there's some political and social stuff. But generally, it's what a lot of comics talk about, their relationships and about their lives. But, I just try to take a different angle on things than maybe some other comics do, so it's not so obvious, and so that it does catch you off guard, and you do choke on your spaghetti once in a while, and that's sort of what, makes comics a little different from each other as their point of view.
Yeah, I mean, what's great about it, too, is the one thing I've said about your comedy albums, both live and hilarious, and now Hellbent for Leather. First of all, congrats on getting a new album out in less time than Guns N' Roses' Chinese Democracy and Metallica's Saint Anger. That's first off, I gotta commend you on that one.
Well, it's the same with comedy as it is with the band, and as far as you have your whole life to write the first album, and then you have a couple of years to do your next one, and that's why there's so many sophomore jinxes. But I honestly feel like this album is even better than the first one, because the first one I'm very proud of, but it was definitely a collection of material since like day one that I started doing stand-up, and mixed in with some of the current stuff that was happening at the time, like terrorism and having the first black president and stuff like that. So, like I say, as much as I was proud of it, this one is so hyper focused, about my life now, and obviously for me, it's a lot more powerful. So. I also hope it appeals, not only to metal and hard rock fans, but just regular comedy fans. I'm a nightclub comic, so, I do still talk about those bands, when they perform in regular nightclubs. And, they're all people that everyone knows, Motley and Kiss and Ozzy and Judas Priest and AC/DC. So, I think it's they're bands that people know enough that it crosses over with just a regular audience.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I think that will definitely help carry over this album into an audience outside of the rock and metal world. Is, like you said, you've used bands that kind of everyone knows, and forget about that, you touch on topics that, it's not a political sensitive, where if you're Republican, you get it, you're a Democrat, you don't get it, or it's a religion-based joke, where if you don't know the religion, you don't get it. You've managed to find that, that perfect spot where it doesn't matter race, ethnicity, sexual preference, musical preference. You found that sweet spot, if you will, that hits on everything.
Well, I think it's just I'm not smart enough to understand a lot of the political and social issues that are happening. So I kind of walk the middle line a lot of ways, which is kind of good, especially if you're talking about politics and religion. You don't want you want to be able to have both sides laugh and sort of go, okay, yeah, I get it. He's objective. It's objectively funny. I don't take a hard stance either way on anything, but. Because, at the end of the day, as much as you want to be artistic and you want to make a statement and, you want to be creative, you're also paid to entertain a crowd, and your main job is make people laugh. So that's always the foremost thing in my mind is, like, let's make these people laugh. I don't need to make any kind of major statements. But at the same time, I do want to talk about things that are current, because that's what makes your album relevant. So... I'm very proud of it, like I said, and I do totally appreciate you, supporting and helping not only out having me back in the asylum, but on the social media as well.
You're welcome, man. I'm glad to help out with it. I love the first album, and this one I love just as much as the first one. It deserves the same acclamation the first one got. And I listened to it, and it's funny that you mentioned how the last one sold well, and you thought it had something to do with the title of it. People thought it was a different album. Did you have that same, feeling with this one, naming it after Judas Priest's Hell Bent for Leather, calling it Hell Bent for Laughter, or is that just, you thought you wanted to pay homage to the guys of Priest?
Well, yeah, I definitely wanted to pay homage, much like I did on my first album, where, obviously it was a parody of the Great Thin Lizzy live album, Live and Dangerous. But, the joke I always say, because, I'm very humble. I'm grateful that, my album made the top 10 on the Billboard charts, and I was very proud of that. But I'm not a guy that boasts about anything. I'm grateful for everybody's support. So, joking around, half joking around, but there might be a theory to this. But at the same time, Live and Hilarious is out. Louis C.K., the great comedian, had an album out called Hilarious. And I think a lot of people downloaded my album accidentally thinking it was Louis. So I thank Louis on my album if that's the case, and I apologize to people who got my record instead, but I hope you enjoyed it. So I couldn't wait for Louis to name his next album, so I said, because I was going to name it something close to that one, so I just went with Hell Bent for Laughter instead.
Awesome. I know you're busy, so I don't want to keep you much longer. Just one quick question before I let you go. You take no holds barred on any of your material, and I respect you for that, as do many. Do you worry about maybe any kind of feedback? Because, you really hit Kiss hard on this album. You hit Mick Mars recently from Motley Crue, who was also on that metal show. The one with him, that was one of the lines that really got me about, two guys in Motley Crue being able to blow themselves. Do you worry about any kind of negative feedback with that? Or is it just, listen, if you get it, you get it, and if you don't get it, well, that's your problem?
Oh yeah, I don't. I didn't put anything on there that I thought would really aggravate anybody. I thought the stuff was all, in good fun. Yeah, Gene and Paul, they got a couple of shots, and they probably get it the hardest. But look, they're public figures. The metal scene is, ripe for comedy. But there's nobody that takes a bigger beating on the album than me. So, if it was just me up there, yelling and bashing bands, that's not funny. But to make fun and have, a good time with the bands that we all love, and I love and respect all the bands that I talk about on the album, just listen to the whole album because, I spend, 75% of it bashing myself. So, everybody gets it, including me. I'm an equal opportunity offender, with me being the main target. So, I'm from Jersey. It's the only way I know how to show affection is by breaking balls. So, yeah, it's all on there, and I'm on Metal Blade. So, when you're on a label where, they have bands like Cannibal Corpse and 6 Feet Under who talk about, desecrating dead bodies and stuff, I'm pretty sure they weren't going to ask me to tone any of my material down.
Yeah, exactly. Nor would I expect you to tone anything down for any label, because it would just change who you are, and it would change the album, and nobody wants that at all.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's the night, when you're a comic, the stage is the last place you kind of have to say what you want. We're in a very PC society, and people like to, make a fuss about everything. And you look, I know as a guy who works hard, if I go to see a band or a comedian or whatever at the end of the week, I want to see him perform. I want to see him let loose. I don't want some watered down version of what I'm expecting. And I love my association with Metal Blade, and I love all the fans for supporting me. We just found out today through Metal Blade that Hell Bent for Laughter broke the top 10 on iTunes. So thank you everybody for continued support, and of course you there at the Asylum.
Glad to hear it broke the top 10. I had a feeling you would. Don, thank you for joining me here tonight inside the Asylum. It was great having you on, even though I just saw you at that metal show last week.
Yeah, well, when we gear up again, brother, we'll be in touch. We'll get you back down again, and we'll do another chat in the asylum soon, man.
Definitely, brother. Everyone go out there. If you did not already do so, get your copy, Hellbent for Laughter, iTunes, DonJamieson.com. Check it out. Don, how about we go out with one of the tracks I touched on a little bit here, and one of the ones that caught me off guard and I played last week. Motley Crue, AC/DC, and Your Awful Sideburns, even though I don't think your sideburns are that bad. I think Hugh Jackman's copying you.
Well, obviously, of course, and obviously, I'm making much more money than he is, being on VH1 Classic. So I think he's just a little jealous of me. That's all.
That's all. You got better exposure than he does.
Oh yeah. He's I'm a household name. He's nobody, but yeah, let it rip, man. And we'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, man. All right, thanks, Don. Right now, Motley Crue, AC/DC, and My Awful Sideburns from Don Jamieson's Hellbent for Laughter.